This is just 3 questions for atheists. We're going to see what the 3 questions are. I have not watched any of these in advance. I just picked 3 that looked interesting. This is my challenge to atheists, and this is atheists can't answer these logically. So these seem like 3 things. I am pretty sure that whatever these guys have for me is going to be utterly familiar, right? Because I feel like every time I do check back in on the atheism versus theism sort of discourse, it seems like it's a discourse that continues to spin its wheels in the mud, in that it has not advanced 1 iota since I left it behind. Not completely, obviously. I'm here right now. But since it stopped being, the majority of my content a number of years ago. But let's see what's going on.
3 questions that I want to ask atheists, and these aren't gotcha questions. I sincerely want to know. Sincerely want to.
Sincerely? Yeah, sincerely. That's right. That's a word.
I know the answer to these questions. First question is, do you believe that God does not exist?
Very suspicious wording. Do I believe that God does not exist? No. I don't believe that God exists. Very different things. The absence of a belief is not in and of itself a belief. I don't believe in leprechauns. I don't believe in fairies. I don't believe in goblins. No one says, I believe that there are no fairies. I believe that there are no goblins. You could say that. People would still take your meaning. But it's not quite the same thing, really, is it? Because what we're talking about is an absence of a positive belief, not the positive assertion of a negative belief, whatever the f that is.
So,
he's
you
going to explain.
kind of either have that belief or you don't. You either believe that God does not exist or you don't.
No, not really. I just don't believe he exists.
If you answered yes to that, then you're ready for the next question.
No, I just find the question fatally flawed. And I understand that you're phrasing it that way for a reason. You even though you start by saying that this is not going to be a gotcha, I'm pretty sure that based on the fact that you worded the first question the way you did, you are leading towards a gotcha.
The next question is, do you believe in evidentialism? Evidentialism is the view.
I believe in empiricism. I believe in not holding beliefs without evidence to support them. Obviously, there are some beliefs I hold that are completely subjective, but I recognize those as such. So yeah, if that's what you mean.
That your beliefs ought to be proportioned to the evidence. You shouldn't just believe something without evidence.
Sure.
Those are
so let's see. The first question was, do I believe there is no God? And the second question is, do you believe in evidentialism? So the third question, inevitably, is going to be something like, what is your evidence that God doesn't exist, right? Is that going to be it?
The first 2 questions. You answered yes to both of those. If you have the belief that God does not exist, and you also believe in evidentialism, you're ready for the third question. And third question is, what is your evidence that justifies your belief that God does not exist?
God is one of any number of unfalsifiable hypotheses, just as I don't need to have... what evidence could there be to prove God doesn't exist? What evidence could there be to prove a leprechaun doesn't exist? What evidence could there be to prove that a unicorn doesn't exist? What evidence could there be to prove that a goblin doesn't exist? That's just a silly question, isn't it? So, yeah. And not the first time I've heard that one. All right, this next one looks like they're going to play some Ricky Gervais for us first. And then it says response incoming, or incoming response.
I don't believe in about 2,700 gods. Christians don't believe in 2,699.
Yes.
So they're nearly as atheistic as me.
Yes. That's right.
Okay.
Some weird guy a few thousand years ago said so. It's ludicrous. I mean, it's laughable.
My challenge for
all right, challenge for atheists.
For atheists is this: when you're dealing with the topic of God's existence, Jesus' resurrection, the evidence for the Bible, that sort of thing, no sarcasm, no self-righteous posturing allowed. I think if you watch a debate between
so this is just nothing but tone policing,
a Christian and an atheist, you will see that the vast majority of the stuff that comes off the atheist side is sarcasm and self-righteous posturing. And if
so basically this guy doesn't like the snarky tone with which his ridiculous beliefs are dismissed. No, I refuse your challenge, sir. I refuse to not be a snarky, sarcastic asshole as I make arguments against your religion. What Ricky Gervais said, by the way, like I notice as you're tone policing Ricky Gervais right now, you're not actually acknowledging that he did make an argument. He made an argument that there have been multitudes of gods throughout human history. So why is yours different? Why is yours different than all the other gods that people either do currently believe in or once believed in every bit as fervently as you do? Obviously, what's the more likely scenario? There is a whole shit ton of false gods, but by sheer luck, you just happen to guess the one real one? Or is it just likely that humanity has a tendency to make up gods? Right? So you failed to acknowledge that. And then I don't even remember what Ricky said in the other clip. I think he just said, you know, people believe it just because some crazy dude said so once upon a time. Well, that's pretty accurate. You know, you might not like that. You might find that reductionist. You might be insulted by that, but it's still a pretty reasonable argument. Just because someone said something once doesn't mean it's true.
If you just take those two things away, that kind of mockery and scoffing, it has a very different effect on you. And you can maybe see clearly enough to at least weigh the evidence thoughtfully.
I'm an atheist.
There is no evidence. Your guys' evidence is a desert tome of primitive superstitions and mythology, which if you wanted to say, hey, here's some interesting mythological stories, maybe we can learn something from them. You know, I would have no problem with that. Hey, this Christ figure that appears in these myths has some actually pretty compelling and interesting things to say. I have no problem with that. In fact, I would even agree with that. But to say, hey, this book contains the inerrant word of God and it contains directions for how to live given to us right from the creator of the universe. So this is an instruction manual on how to exist. Well, at that point, I'm going to point out, hey, it's riddled with contradictions. It's riddled with scientific inaccuracies. It's riddled with historical inaccuracies. It's riddled with really shoddy morality that, you know, doesn't really match up to what most human beings believe today. So what are we supposed to do? You know, like this book says slavery is okay. So can we now say that slavery is fine because this is an instruction manual from the creator of the universe? Or do we say, hey, this is maybe not an instruction manual for the creator of the universe. This is a mythological tome that contains stories that are, you know, very reflective of the time in which it was written. I think it's much more rational to say the second thing. So, yeah. And, snarkiness be damned. If a snarky person is right, they're still right. If a snarky person if a polite person is wrong, you know, they're still wrong. So, yeah. Finally, this one is atheists cannot answer this logically.
Not answer this question. We know time, space, and matter was all created at the Big Bang. But if it was all created at the Big Bang, what caused the Big Bang? The cause would have to be something timeless, spaceless, and immaterial.
So basically, we're just doing the first cause argument. Is that all this is? Just like first cause, like what caused the Big Bang? Okay, well, let's say it. Well, let's just watch the whole thing. It's a short, so.
And the atheist would say, we don't know. So if you don't know, right, why could it not be God? And if there is no God, why is there something rather than nothing at all? Atheists cannot answer this question.
Well, there's a few problems with that. First of all, I mean, causality itself was created in the Big Bang. So expecting there to be a reason for the Big Bang to have banged is kind of fallacious in and of itself, because it assumes the need for causality when causality itself didn't occur until the Big Bang. Time itself didn't occur until the Big Bang, according to, you know, obviously I'm not a fucking physicist. You probably talk to someone who's a little bit more educated on the topic, but from my layman's understanding, that's true. But even getting beyond that, let's just say that you're right. Like you say, why couldn't it have been God? Well, I guess it could have been. Why couldn't it have been a bowl of Cheerios? Why couldn't it have been a chrysanthemum? Why couldn't it have been some guy going... Why couldn't it have been a teapot? Why couldn't it have been some drywall? Why couldn't it have been this beer? This particular can of beer created the universe. Why not? I mean, you could posit any number of things. And then if you're going to posit, hey, there had to be a first cause. That first cause must have been God. Okay, well then what caused God? Oh, well, God just exists. He doesn't need a first cause. Okay, then why does the Big Bang need a first cause then? Exactly. Well, here's the thing. We know the universe exists. Well, I mean, failing some sort of brain in a jar scenario where it's like, oh, all of existence is but a dream or whatever. Failing that solipsistic crap, the universe exists. If the universe exists, then that's a thing we can posit. Hey, maybe that came about without a cause. Maybe it emanated from an event that created causality itself. So if we're going to posit that, at least what we're positing the existence of is something we know for a fact is real. To posit an infinitely complex God, an actual entity, a being to have created that means you equally have to explain how that complex thing came about, right? So it just eats itself. It's like an Ouroboros snake forever consuming its own tail. So yeah, I mean, it seems like these Christians have really not advanced this argument at all. They continue to put forth the same arguments that they did, 15 years ago when I started off on this platform. They haven't adjusted to them at all. And, these questions have been answered for these people numerous times. So it's not like they have any sort of legitimate claim to not know the answer to these questions anymore. These questions have been answered for them dutifully and diligently, time and time again, by myself and by plenty of others. And yet here we are, continuing to be asked the same ridiculous questions, continuing to give the same reasonable answers time and time again. And there's just no rebuttal. I really wish that Christians would at least come up with some new pap, some new pablum, some new gibberish, some new nonsense to make fun of, or at least something that gets the old noodle bacon for a second. Like, I could have answered those three things in my damn sleep at this point. Hey, atheist, insert logical fallacy here. Checkmate. Praise the drywall creator.